Good afternoon. How's it going today? It's another wonderful day on A Brodacious Life. I am super excited today because we have a special guest with us. We have Fitz Koehler with us. She is a fitness innovator, a race announcer for the LA Marathon, Big Sur Marathon, Philadelphia Marathon, DC Wonder Woman Run Series, and more. She's a speaker, cancer crusher, and author of My Noisy Cancer Comeback, Running at the Mouth While Running for My Life. How's it going today, Fitz?
I'm thrilled, Chef. Good to be with you.
I'm excited that you're here. It's another wonderful day, and I have a lot to learn. I think there's a lot I can learn from you. By the time this podcast airs, we're going to be into the new year. So I know, that means, people are going to be out there. They're going to be making some pretty broad New Year's resolutions, and a lot of that is going to be down to weight loss and health related. Many people, aka myself, I struggle with running. So why running, and how do you find day to day to go running?
Well, why running is a big question because it's not for everybody. And I don't think anybody should limit themselves from being fit because they don't like running. And sometimes people don't like running because it's hard, right? We tend to go, oh, well, this feels more comfortable, so I'm going to do it. Well, running definitely has some fantastic benefits. Yes, weight loss, yes, stress release, yes, building bone density, yes, incredible community. So running has some extraordinary business benefits, but if you don't want to do it, fine. If you want to give it a try and keep going until you get to the point where it feels good, you'll be highly rewarded. For me, running is just a part of my entire fitness focus. So my favorite thing to do in fitness is strength training. I love making muscles. I'm obsessed with muscles. I get their value. Strength training is really the fountain of youth. If everybody did it, golly, the physical therapy offices and the hospitals and the pain clinics would be empty. So strength training, but I do love running. I recently ran the Boston Marathon about a year ago, and I do a lot of obstacle course races, mud runs, short 5Ks, you name it, I'll do it. I'm interested in a life of athletic adventure.
So you've been around a lot of events, and again, the LA, the Big Sur, Philadelphia, and the DC Wonder Woman Run Series. What's it like being an announcer at these marathons?
Man, it's heaven. It's so much fun. I mean, really, I get to be the ringleader of the party. And so my job as a race announcer is when athletes approach the start line in the morning, I'm playing great music, I'm welcoming them, I'm getting them engaged, informed, and entertained. And I go heavy on the entertainment because I want people to have fun. The start line, sometimes we bring together 20, 30,000 people. And the start line is the only time during the entire weekend where we are all together. And so that really turns into the place where everybody can cut loose because they get lost in the masses and they're willing to shout and hoot and holler and have fun and dance. And I like things rowdy. So think about World Cup soccer. You see where American fans are, and then you see the in Spain where they're dancing and they're jumping and they're loving
for sure. There's the chants. One of the countries, I believe it was Ghana, had like full out like drums and everything banging the entire match. Not when their team just had the ball, but the entire game. They were just in there and they were just celebrating their team the whole time. I'm always amazed by the golf clap America versus the passion in soccer from other countries.
So I bring the passion to running. My start lines look like World Cup soccer in Europe. My runners are enthusiastic and exciting, and I think I get into their soul. And if they're nervous, I help calm them down. If they want to win or PR, just do better than they've ever done for that particular distance, my job is to crank them up, but mostly make them feel welcome, wanted. And then I whip them into a frenzy, and then I bellow, runner, set, go, and they leave. And then I'm sad that they left because we were having so much fun. But then I move on over to the finish line, and technology allows me to welcome most of these people by name. I see their name, I see their hometown, their age. I get a lot of information, and I pour on love. I want our champions all to feel like they just had the greatest victory on planet Earth, but I also want the very dead last person to feel like they had the greatest victory on planet Earth, and everyone in between. I just want them to feel loved and wanted. And, it's a real privilege to be able to congratulate people first when they've done something so spectacular.
So you've gotten these people all hyped up. They're like basically at a rave. They're pumped up. They're ready to go. You get all kinds of characters that come out there for these marathons. What's the craziest thing that you've seen out?
Oh gosh. Well, it's interesting. And for majority of people, when you're running, so a marathon is 26.2 miles. That's the only thing called a marathon. And then there's half marathons, 10K, 5K. But for that distance, that's a lot of work, normally a long time out. Even our fastest marathoner takes 2 hours plus to go the distance. So most of us are looking for the perfect footwear and the perfect sports bra and the perfect shorts and the tank top that won't chafe. And we work so hard on getting all the most highly functional fitness gear. And then there's some dude out there dressed head to toe like Big Bird going the distance, just like Darth Vader, or firefighters in their complete fire suit with their oxygen tank. So that's some of the craziest stuff. I think, oh my gosh, the chafing for these firefighters must be extraordinary.
Yes.
And Big Bird, for crying out loud. But yeah, man, people are wild, and none of them ever look like they're struggling, but they lift the spirits of everybody around them. Because who doesn't laugh and smile when Big Bird passes you, or Chewbacca on?
I can imagine running in a Chewbacca suit. I'm a big guy. I sweat even if it's like 50 degrees outside. So to run in a Chewbacca suit in the summer is maddening.
Well, just to be clear, I ran a half marathon once, and things didn't go well for me. My knee hurt. I had really slowed down. And at mile 12 of this 13.1 mile race, some jerk in the Chewbacca costume comes running by me. And I thought, oh, the end of me. I've been passed by a full blown fursuit Chewbacca outfit. So whatever, humble pie, right?
Yeah, I was watching a film on, I believe it was ESPN on Monday last week, where there was a dad who took his special needs son through a triathlon, and he pulled his son on like a kayak through the water portion. He towed behind him through the biking, and in running, he towed him behind him as well. And you're like, man, I didn't even go for a run at all today. And this guy, who's probably in his 60s, just made me feel like the biggest woods known to man. That was a motivator for me this week of, you need to get up and go work out, go do something.
I love that. And that's actually one of the great things about being a finish line. So what you just described is actually fairly common nowadays. We call them racing duos. And Rick and Dick Hoyt in Boston kind of cleared the path for this. They're one of our most famous duos. And Dick Hoyt pushed his son Rick through short races and then marathons. He did, I think, 30 Boston marathons. He did Ironman triathlon. So he inspired many other racing duos. So now, people of all capabilities can participate in sport, right? And they have all these cool chariot chairs. But yeah, I love it when our finish lines are packed with spectators. And, I'll ask the spectators, because they're there too. It's my job to entertain and engage them. I say, who's never done a race before? And you get all those hands go up. And I always say, listen, keep your eye on this finish line, because you will see somebody that looks like you, exactly like you. And then you will see somebody who looks far less capable than you. And perhaps you will be inspired to go try a 1 mile endurance event, or just go take Zumba class, whatever it is. But some of my most interesting is for the marathon distance at 26.2 miles. I have had plenty of people in their 90s doing full marathons.
Wow.
I've had plenty of morbidly obese people. I'm talking 400 or 500 pounds do it. I've had World War II veterans at 5Ks, which melts my heart. And then, and Gasparilla this February is Marco Cicchetto broke the half marathon distance record for a man with no legs. That's right. He had 0 legs running on 2 prosthetics. And he set the record because, hey, there was a record to be broken. There was a whole bunch of other people doing it. So yeah, if you're sitting at home thinking, I can't, well, that's just a lie. And you can. And the reality is, if you can roam through the mall for an hour, you can do a 5K. There is no obligation to run. You could just show up and walk the whole way, collect your medal, and then, decide if maybe you want to do it again, maybe you want to do it a little faster. But yeah, there's inspiration everywhere.
David Goggins was one of the people who kind of got me interested in running.
Hmm.
Just to hear his, his testosterone filled,
Yeah.
his rants on you're a chump, you're garbage, you need to get out there and do it. And to hear his stories about how he did the ultra marathons and, I've never run so far that I've gotten chafed or,
Right.
something of that nature. And he just kind of went into the struggle of it. What else do they have to go through this, and how do they prepare for those different things? Like, what do you do when you start to chafe or your knees hurting? Is there any adjustments that you can make, or what happens there?
So the best measures are preventative, right? You start say you're going to you want to start running. Well, you start walking first, right? Like maybe you say, okay, I'm going to walk 2 miles, or I'm going to walk 20 minutes a day for the next 5 days. And then I'm going to add 1 minute of walking every 3 minutes. I'm going to walk three, run one, or walk 3 minutes, run for 30 seconds. And so baby steps is the best way, because that's the way to not get hurt and prevent that deterrence where you feel like, oh, I can't do it, I'm defeated. And so just be rational with yourself and do these teeny little things to move forward. Obviously, starting with a 1 mile race is smarter than a marathon. Then you move to the 5K, and then the 10K, and then the 10 mile, and then the half marathon. So, gradual progress is smart with anything. You don't say, I'm going to learn a language, and then the next day, boom, you're speaking fluently. You have to, you have to learn the little teeny bits at a time. But when it comes to stuff like chafing, man, there is technology, and you should pay attention. You should do a little shopping, a little reading. There's Body Glide, for example, and people are putting it on their thighs and their underarms, on their nipples, anywhere where material or your own body parts may rub together. There's stuff to prevent your chafing. As far as the pain, most endurance athlete pain is not due to injury. It's due to tightness and weakness. And so
Right.
instead of just thinking, I'm going to run, what you need to do is run, but also strength training. Like, it's the fountain of youth, and it is the basis of every athlete's success. You got to pair that with flexibility and then balance training so you don't fall down. So yeah, having a well-rounded fitness plan. I call them the 4 pillars of fitness. If people go to Fitzness, they'll learn a lot about that. It's strength, flexibility, endurance, and balance. But yeah, before you're an athlete, you're a person. So you got to do those. Yeah, you have to be proficient in those 4 pillars of fitness. And then if you start building on athleticism from there, you could be one of the lucky schmucks who do not have chafe and do not have knee pain. And nice,
One of
right?
those guys.
Those guys.
The unicorn.
Mhm.
So, when I dive into something, I tend to go whole hog. I don't know if you know that true Southern term there, but I go all in. And the downfall of that is those like me, we could waste our time buying all the gear, the Apple Watch, the running clothes, et cetera. How do you begin, and what do you really need to start?
Well, if we're talking about running, you need a good pair of running shoes. You need some comfy socks. I prefer moisture wicking socks. That's my preference. And if you're a girl, you need a sports bra. Other than that, you don't need jack. And that's one of the best parts about an activity like walking or running is, by the time you're one, you know how to do it. And if you want some good support, a quality pair of running shoes is a great idea. Sure, you can go to a big box retailer to get them, but if you go to a running specialty store, usually the local guy with, Bob's running shoes, whatever, go in there. Bob knows a whole bunch about your foot, your
Yes.
gait, the way you move, and he or she can recommend some good footwear. But you know what? I don't own a watch. Sometimes I'll run with my phone to play music, and then I'll keep track of my distance, but you don't have to have all the fancy gear. I've got great sports bras and I've got great shoes. And other than that, whatever feels comfortable, but it's walking, it's running. How complicated could it be?
I feel like the key is also like, how simple do you want it to be? I feel like we tend to do too much, and then we do so much that we ultimately stymie our growth by thinking that we have to have the next thing. I got to have the Apple Watch, to be able to track my stuff. And there's just so much parameters that we put around it that sometimes we don't even start.
No.
We almost shoot ourselves short with, well, I don't have this, so I can't do it. And I feel like that's a big lie that we all possess in some form or fashion.
So, Chef, so many people lie to themselves constantly, incessantly, and it's just to their own demise because I can't run, or I hate exercise, or I can't afford it. BS. You're dropping $72 at Star Wars every month, or at Starbucks every month. You,
Starbucks.
you can pay $30 for a gym membership, which, by the way, will allow you in there 24 hours a day, or as long as it's open, you literally get hundreds of hours of gym time for $30. You're telling me you can't afford that, yet you can drop $5 in a coffee every day. So, what I find with fitness, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I've dealt with every single type of person, is that absolutely nobody makes progress until they put their foot.
Uh-oh. Are you there, Miss Fitz? Hello, hello.
The other detriment or the other obstacle they need to get past is they need to understand the how. And so that takes someone like me. A lot of fitness people are just lying through their teeth. They're uneducated and they're trying to sell you crap, right? You don't need a weight loss shake. There's no such thing as weight loss shake. It doesn't exist. It's almost like saying there's a weight loss apple. Here, these apples are for weight loss. Eat this weight loss apple. If somebody's trying to sell you a product, they're a liar, they're a hack. You need to run away. And you need to find out the truth, which is watch what you put in your mouth, move your body, get some quality sleep, remove the cranky people. Voila, fitness ensues.
Fitness magically ensues. I like that. So you mentioned it there for a second about like some intermittent running, but how did you build up your endurance? Is there like a surefire way to do it? Is there, what way best helps you?
Okay, so we talked a bit about my book, my cancer book. It's My Noisy Cancer Comeback. And so a few years ago, I had cancer. I went through 15 months of chemo, 33 rounds of radiation, some surgeries, blah, blah, blah. I was bare bones fitness. I had lost about 12% of my body weight. And I couldn't open a water bottle, right? I couldn't open the car door. I got into the gym and I sat down on a machine and I could only push 20% of what I was pushing before cancer. So I'm a really good exhibit A of baseline. And in fact, my next books are Your Healthy Cancer Comeback and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. So those are coming out in January. But you ask, how do you build endurance? Well, I went in the gym and there was a row of machines. I didn't choose anything complicated. And I started off by doing 5 repetitions of what I could. I did each machine 5 repetitions because I didn't want to cause myself any more misery than I had already endured. And then I went home. And then the next day I went for a walk. I started off, where I live on a hill, I walked down the hill and then I realized, I can't get home. So I had to call and say, could you pick me up? Well, where are you? Well, I'm at the bottom of the hill. I can't get back up. So, if we're talking about building endurance, start where you are. Make as much progress as you can in a reasonable way, and then take a break. Come back 2 days later and do a little bit more. I very strategically orchestrated my return to health, not only health and fitness, but athleticism. So by the time I agreed to do the Boston Marathon, which is almost exactly 1 year to the day of finishing chemo, I had enough fitness that I was able to get online. I used a few different, very successful marathon coach training plans. And I looked at them. Thankfully, I'm a fitness expert, so I can wiggle things and say, oh, this will work better for me. But honestly, training for a marathon took 2 days of running for 30 minutes. So I would run for 30 minutes on Monday, run for 30 minutes on Wednesday. And then on Friday, I would do a long run. And that was it.
Okay.
That was it. I only ran 3 days a week for 4 months, and I was able to do the Boston Marathon.
That's fantastic. So with, you talked about basically being, basically bare bones and then building back up. Do you feel like that made you a better runner and better athlete overall?
You know what? It's made me even more fearless than I was before. So my background before I started running, I was a competitive kickboxer for almost 10 years.
Okay.
I know. Duh, look at me, obviously. And I love that sport. I love the fact that I was never looking at a number, right? I was never counting a calorie or counting repetitions. I just got to kick people in the head. And I thought, wow, this is the most fun thing I've ever done. So I love the mental engagement of fighting. And then I loved how physically grueling it was. But believe it or not, when I was kickboxing, I thought I was going to join a soccer team. And man, those girls were so big. And I thought, they're going to break my leg. So I'm not going to do this. So post-cancer, I am not afraid of almost anything, which is a real gift, because after going through something like that, I mean, what's there to be afraid of? I finished chemo. I got my port out a week later or something like that. And then a month later, I did a Spartan race, right? I did the Spartan 5K. Wow. And did I fail on a lot of the obstacles? I did, but who cared? Nobody was watching me. Nobody cared what I did. So if I couldn't do the swinging and pulling exercises, I moved on to the next. But I tell you, I was laughing far more than anyone else. And then the very next week, I dived into a sprint triathlon, and it kicked my ass. Can I say that on your show? Can I?
Yeah,
say
that's
it?
fine.
Okay, I kicked my ass. I was the dead last finisher. I was the absolute last person. I had the cop behind me, because in all of our endurance events, we usually have law enforcement that sweeps to make sure everybody gets home safely. Well, that was me, hyperventilating, sucking wind up the hill with the bike, and so much fun. When all of a sudden you let go of your ego and you start focusing on life, I get this day. Let's see what I can do today. You become a lot less fearless, a lot less concerned about other people's opinion. And again, I was dead freaking last in that triathlon. I got beat by morbidly obese people, by pregnant ladies, by children, by the elderly. I've never been so proud of myself. I've never been so proud of myself. So I think that's the great gift of cancer is I've flown down mountains on skis. I will do almost anything if it sounds like a good time. And I really hope your audience doesn't need something terrifying like cancer to convince them to embrace life and jump on every opportunity as it comes.
This reminds me of there's a chef named Grant Atkins. He owns the restaurant called Alinea. You see his documentary on Netflix on Chef's Table, I believe is the series. He's one of the first few episodes, and he developed oral cancer. And he kind of went through this process of, well, I'm a chef and I cannot taste anything specific, especially once he went through chemo and they focused in on his jaw and they really messed up his whole palate. And so he couldn't taste for almost 6 months. Wow. And he was talking about how he was going through dinner service and he was just basically skin and bones. And then he remembers like the first time that he tasted salt. And then he's like, that was like the building moment. He's like, I could taste salt. He was getting like a tablespoon of salt, putting it on his tongue and just being excited. But I kind of related in that same way of, he talks about, he says, cancer was the scariest moment of my life, but it also gave me another perspective. He's like, I rebuilt my entire palate as a chef from scratch. I was able to build my mentality for my drive, my effort, my level of no fear. Everything was reset and I had a new perspective on what was going on. And it sounds like you kind of had that similar moment of just like, I've got nothing to worry about. I've got this second lease. I've got everything in front of me. So what's holding me back?
That's right. So 2 things is that chemo mouth is real. I remember I'd had chemo on Monday and then I went to lunch with a girlfriend 2 days later. Things hadn't hit the fan with me yet. Chemo Monday, things hit the fan on Thursday, but on Wednesday I went to lunch with a girlfriend and I think I had a baked potato and I ordered the unsweet tea from the Callister's Deli. I came out and I said, oh, there's something wrong with your machine. Could you serve it from the other iced tea machine? She gave it to me and again, it tasted wrong. And then I thought, oh no, here it comes. And then, so for 7-8 months, even though my chemo lasted 15 months, but the mouth thing only was for a while. And everything for 7-8 months tasted like it was covered in black dirt. I don't know how else to describe it, but take your food, dump some black dirt on it. That's what it all tasted like. And what a delight when I could finally enjoy a Diet Coke again or whatever, a salad, just that's a horrible experience. But, there's with my memoir, I tell all the tales, right? So I didn't stay home during chemo. So many people, they say, oh, you're sick, stay home, hide out. No way, that would have killed me in itself. So I decided, and my race announcing calendar has me on a plane out of Gainesville 30 times a year. So I would do chemo and I would explode and I would be sick and I would get on those planes because I decided I was not going to miss, no matter what happened with cancer. I wasn't going to miss special times with my kids. So if they were on a stage or doing a sport or whatever, I was going to be there. And then I wasn't going to miss my career. I earned my career. I built it and I wasn't going to let it die. And in fact, if I had taken a break for a year and a half, my business, Fitzness, would be gone. Instead, I tripled my business while I was sick. But yeah, so it was perspective. I instead of having the pity party, I decided that I would always be grateful that I wasn't a kid with cancer and it wasn't my kid with cancer. And for me, it wasn't one of the more typically fatal kind of cancer. So perspective. Number two, it was
Right.
pursue those passions. And then number three was maintain positivity because, did I cry every day? I did, but there was always a really good reason to smile and laugh. And what I found is you get no extra points for being the saddest girl in the room, right? These pity parties will only take you so far. When I have cancer, okay, well, I did have cancer, but I was still able to have a good time sometimes. And yeah, so you take that attitude with a healthy
Right.
body. Do you need cancer to figure that out? No, let your favorite chef and let me get you there without having to go through the hardship
For
of,
sure.
yeah, I mean, it's life is good, especially if we choose that.
So you mentioned that you were kickboxing, you do strength training. Is there any other, what other activities that you like to do to exercise?
I stretch incessantly, and I find that as an athlete, the stretching prevents all those athlete pains, and as a grown-up, it prevents all the grown-up pains. And so,
Yes. That's something my wife has just gotten me doing is stretching. And she's like, you just need to spend, she's like, wake up in the morning, like just spend 15 minutes to stretch, do your thing. It's like, even if you're just in the bathroom in your own time and no one's looking at you, she's like, just spend 15, 20 minutes stretching out. And I'll admit, after doing it for a week or two, like I already feel better. Like I
oh,
have like the old man knees.
yep,
I'm a big guy to start with. I was 300 and almost 350 pounds. I'm now down to 285 ish.
congrats.
And thank you, thank you, thank you. My goal is 220. I got a long way to go, but I'm really excited about it. But I feel like after I started stretching, and again, everything's just been small incremental things. What other activities do you have though that get you excited? I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
That's okay. I mean, just stretching. I want people to do it. Stretch all the parts of your body, hip stretches, low back stretches, those will go a long way. But I do it on the fly. So when my dog wakes up in the middle of the night to go out, I'll let her out and then I just drop down on the ground. I stretch my hips. I'm
Okay.
constantly grabbing ropes and belts and poles and pulling them behind my back to open up my chest. It's just really good for posture. So, look around. Everybody look around. Start looking at the people nearby. Most people hunch. It's super unsexy to be a huncher, but it also projects so much weakness. And we're talking to a lot of bros out there, right? Do you want to be the man who walks in the room where people say, "Ooh, who's that?" Or who
Right.
cares? Throw those shoulders back, stand up tall. You will not only be more desirable socially, but professionally. We want to hire the guy with great posture. We want to hire the guy with great, he's standing up tall, he's confident. We look at him and think, well, damn it, he can get things done. He's going to make our life easier. He's going to make us lots of money, or she is. So work on your posture. Those are some simple things you can do, but stretching is the key to posture. And then you asked me another question. What was it?
If you had other activities that you did outside of that,
Yeah, all of the
I didn't know
above.
if like kayaking. I didn't know if
Yes.
I say kayaking was when I lived on the coast. I lived in Pensacola when I was little. I lived in Mobile recently, and that was my favorite thing to do. Just go out. Now I'd throw a fishing line out while I was out there because
Sure.
I mean, why not kill two birds with one stone? But
Yeah.
there's just great activities that can be had that provide a lot of exercise.
I agree. And I'm an outdoor junkie. I just like fresh air. I like paddle boarding. Paddle boarding is one of
Okay.
my go-tos. I also love being dragged behind a boat. So I don't own a boat, so that's less frequently than I'd like, but I love water skiing and wakeboarding and kneeboarding and
Okay.
anything where you can pull me. I'm a Floridian. I'm a lifelong Floridian, so I'm a very mediocre skier. In fact, I can pizza all the way down a mountain on skis,
We got
but
we keep our Florida Gators around here as well.
oh, keep those
So
gators, chomp chomp. Yeah,
there we
so
go.
Floridian lifestyle has its limitations in the snow, but everything. I tell you what, I would be so happy if somebody invited me to go play kickball. You know, what a
There you
like
go.
fun, goofy, friendly sport where you can actually have a beer and kick the ball and just play, right?
Yeah. So everyone attaches like, something along with this weight loss program,
Yep.
and that thing is also a diet. I know you're not a dietitian, so listener, obviously, you got to do what's going to be best for you. Always got to put that out there that, hey, there's no one solution for everybody. But as the inner chef in me is curious, are you on a particular diet or do you have like a regimen or something like that you do?
So this is what I recommend. I'll start with the fact that diets are dumb. They are temporary solutions that only yield temporary results.
I agree.
Diets lead to limitations, restrictions, and suffering, and people quit. So if it's called the
Yep.
anything diet, the XYZ diet, look away, stop right now. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your sanity. So stop. The only thing that actually works for weight management is what I call the exact formula for weight loss. And you have to eat the right amount of the right food for the size you personally would like to be. So if somebody comes out and says, hey, chef, you should eat 1,200 calories a day. Well, stiff arm that person, pop them in the mouth because they deserve it, and go
Right.
the other way. I should eat 1,200 calories a day because I am 118 pounds. So for you to know exactly how much you should be eating is you think about your goal weight, and then you put a 0 on the end of that number. So the human body burns approximately 10 calories per pound of body weight per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you are burning about 2,000 calories just to sustain your weight. So 2,000 calories is what you burn when you move, when you exercise, when you eat, digesting food burns calories, pumping blood through your body requires calories. So you burn about 2,000 calories a day if you weigh 200 pounds. If you weigh 100 pounds, you're probably burning about 1,000 calories a day. So if you're 200, but you would like to weigh 150 pounds, well, where are you going to use round numbers here? 150 pounds would require 1,500 calories. So
Okay.
if instead of eating, I'm so sorry. I'm going to back up a little bit because I missed a point.
No, you're good. You're good.
If you're 200 pounds and you're burning 2,000 calories, if you consume 2,000 calories, you'll stay the same. If you consume more than 2,000 calories, you will gain weight. If you consume less than 2,000 calories, you will lose weight. So that's the part I missed. But if you're 200 pounds and you want to weigh 150 pounds, well, you start eating like a 150-pound person, which is 1,500 calories. So it's that simple. You choose your goal weight, you put a 0 on the end, that becomes your daily caloric budget. Now there's a smart way and the dumb way to do this caloric budget. So for 1,500 calories, for example, if you went to a fancy coffee shop in the morning, you could have a grande frou-frou latte with whipped cream for 800 calories, and you could have a bagel with cream cheese for 700 calories, and boom, you'd be done with your 1,500 calorie budget for the day. Now, if you stuck with that and you ate nothing else but that every day for the rest of your life, well, you'd hit 150 and you wouldn't budge from it. But the reality is, if you do that in the morning, by the time it's 1 p.m., you're going to have a headache, you're going to be hungry, you're going to have to consume more food. So instead of consuming your calories in the dumb way, you're going to do it the smart way, which is lean towards highly nutritious food that is less dense with calories. And where do we get that? We get that from produce, right? Chef, you go in your backyard and you start picking fruits and vegetables, lean protein sources, whether they're nuts or they're meat-based, they're filling. That's how we get satiety. So it's fiber and protein provide us with that full feeling. So you get the fiber in the fruits and veggies, you get your protein is very satisfying. And then you fill in the gaps with the other things you like. And so some people say, don't eat white food. Well, excuse me, potatoes are white and they are filled with nutrition. I love potatoes. And if somebody ever told me not to have a slice of pizza again, I probably would pop them, right? So where
For sure.
I don't believe in telling people you can't have this, you can't have that. If 80 to 90% of your caloric budget is filled with good stuff, well, then the other 10 to 20% you can have fun with. I have a piece of milk chocolate every single day. And if I don't, I feel like it's a sad day. On it, probably once a month, I have a beer. Woohoo! And I don't feel bad about it. And so it's the majority of your calories are healthy choices of your liking. And then have a little bit of wiggle room and have some fun. And what I find, and I've helped so many people lose hundreds of pounds and dozens of pounds, and people of all shapes and sizes and fitness levels get to their goal weight, whether they exercise or not, because you can lose all the weight just with the exact formula for weight loss, is that people using the caloric budget wisely are not hungry. They do not get to the end of the day and have a pit in their stomach. In fact, they feel quite satisfied. So on the cover of fitzness.com, there's a link to that article. I answer all sorts of questions, the frequently asked questions. But yeah, you put a 0 on the end of your goal weight, you go from there and poof, all of a sudden you are the size you want to be, as long as you stick to it, right? You can't do this temporarily. You adopt the formula,
Right.
you stick with it, and you should be able to maintain your weight for the rest of your life.
So I've kind of been doing something similar, and I claim a lot of that to do with my weight loss. I'm on the road constantly, so working out every day is not something that I have the great ability to do. Though I'm getting better. A lot of times, I might stay at I'm staying like tomorrow. I'm in Picayune, Mississippi, which if you don't know where that is, I don't really know either. So I'm down there and I'm consulting with these different restaurants. And so working out is something that's sometimes complicated. I don't feel comfortable running where I'm staying, or they don't have the facilities available. But I have been able to do a little bit more to manage that caloric take. And for me, one of the things that I focused on is I know I'm really bad about snacking at night. That's my jam. At the end of every night, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, all the little kids go to bed, and it's my older 2 kids and my wife. We sit down and we'll watch a movie, and that's when the snacks come out.
Okay.
And I'm bad about that. So one of the things I did this year was just eliminate that snack for me at the very end.
Okay.
I focused in on, I eat my dinner before 6 o'clock, and then I don't eat necessarily. I won't eat till the next day at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And I don't know if I feel like I'm more or less doing the same thing, but I'm just making it harder on myself. Or if I built it in a different way, I've always been told as, oh, you don't want to eat something before you go to bed.
You know what? That's not necessarily reasonable either. I mean, let's say you get off work late and you're hungry. Are you going to eat before you go to bed? You are. So again, all these weird rules, it's calories.
I feel like it takes the fun out.
Well,
I have friends who are on this thing and they have like the app that tells them when they can eat and when they can't eat it. I'm like, this sucks. Like,
Yeah.
or I could just eat that slice of pizza, and tomorrow I'm going to put in a couple extra 20 minutes of workout to make up for it.
Yeah, you could. And some people end up kind of spiraling out where they can never catch up because every day is a new, extra, right? But let's say you have 2,000 calories a day and you like to have a snack at night. Okay, we'll leave 400 calories left in your budget for the end of the day. Your body is still digesting food while you're asleep. In fact, that's where a lot of digestion takes place while you're rest. That's what happens when we rest. Our body, recovers and prepares for the next day. So, there's a very good train of thought that says when you wake up in the morning, it's like, if you're going to take a long 400-mile car trip, are you going to gas up at the beginning of the trip? Or are you going to wait right on E until you get halfway there and then gas up? That, food is fuel. So you start your day with banana and an egg, give yourself some nourishment to go boost your energy, get you feeling good so you can exercise or take on your day at the office with vigor. But yeah, I mean, if you've got X amount of calories, you skin that cat how you like to. I definitely think eating in the morning is a smart idea. These intermittent fasters, I have I just think it's very foolish. We have a fast built into our life. It's called sleep. And there's a thing called breakfast, which break the fast. So all these
Right?
little tricks and whatever, it's complicating. You're an
It
adult.
is.
If you're hungry, eat food.
Eat.
But if you've been reckless about it in a way that has made you overweight, okay, well, now you got to cut back. You get yourself an app. I like My Fitness Pal. It's free. I don't get any kickback from My Fitness Pal, but it's just a great way. You input the data. Like I ate a sandwich. It was 350 calories. I had this juice and it cost me this. And then, when you've hit your caloric budget for the day, you stop eating.
You're just done. I like
Done.
that.
Done. Yeah.
So I want to transition to a few questions about your life experiences. In the midst of your career, you had to face some very tough adversity. It's the topic of your book, and I wanted to just learn a little bit more. Forgive me for asking,
Yes.
if a question is too personal, but how did you discover your cancer? What were your initial thoughts?
Okay, so I had breast cancer and I had had a clean mammogram, sparkly clean mammogram at the end of December 2018. So about 6 weeks later, I was in a hotel bathroom during a race weekend, came out of the shower. I rubbed my underboob, just scratched it, and I found a lump. And I thought, oh, Jesus, there it is. I mean, it was so blatant to me, this lump was going to kill me. So picked up the phone within 30 seconds, called the doctor. I didn't hem and haw about it. And I encourage anybody, if you find something weird on your body, call your doctor, just get it checked out.
Yes.
So I didn't even tell my family. I just decided I'm not gonna cry over spilt milk. I'm not going to sound an alarm until I know there's a reason to sound an alarm.
Okay.
So I found the lump on a Thursday. The very next Thursday, I had another mammogram, then I had an ultrasound, and that radiologist said, she said, this mass looks suspicious, but there's 3 really hard swollen lymph nodes I'm concerned about. And at that point I knew it had spread, and I thought, oh my God, I'm definitely dying. It was terrifying. And it's interesting because parents know this, you fear for your life, but really what you fear is missing your kid's life. All I could think was Ginger and Parker. They were 16 and 14 at the time. And I was so desperate to be with them. That was it, and then later on I started, bemoaning my hair loss and so forth. But I definitely thought I was dying. And one of the main reasons I thought I was dying, because I had no data. I just decided, well, I'm in some regard the perfect beacon of health and happiness. And I have the perfect family and the perfect career. I will make the perfect tragic tale. I just knew there was going to be this lifetime story based on the poor, the noisy fitness expert and race announcer who was crushed by cancer. So it was really,
was there that frustration though of I'm living a healthy life? Because my grandfather went through this. My grandfather, he lived everything in all natural. Like if he didn't grow it, he didn't eat it. And he didn't really believe hardly in cooking things. Like he loved to just eat and, go around. And that's kind of how I like to live. I like to just kind of walk outside. I'm hungry. I'll pick a pear, and he kind of lived this lifestyle. And then for him to get stomach cancer was just this big moment of how did this happen? Did you have that moment that was, well, I'm living this healthy lifestyle. How does this happen?
So I'm not a why me kind of girl. I'm not that just, I don't do it. I mean, I could be run over by a bus and I still wouldn't ask why me. As we look around, cancer's everywhere. It's just everywhere. It's rampant. So I didn't think that way. And you know what, I can understand the people that have lung cancer that never smoked a cigarette, really scratching their head. But I had one rogue cell. That was it. I had one rogue cell. And really,
That's perhaps
the great gift is that my health and fitness, maybe it had turned off or killed millions of rogue cells before this one was successful, right? Maybe all of my healthy habits did pay off there. But what was interesting is I had, my chemo was broken into, like the first 5.5 months, we called the mean chemo. It was the most toxic combination of chemo drugs they give to anybody. And I responded accordingly. I was violently ill every day for that amount of time. And then they moved me to a lesser chemo for about 10 months, which was still mean, but not as mean. And every part of me had become wrong. My eyes changed color. My vision was damaged. My fingernails, my toenails were ripping off. My skin was bad. It was just every part of me was deteriorating. And it was right before my sixth and final round of the mean chemo. So I show up to my wonderful doctor, Lucio Gordon, I love. And at this point, I was a little bit of basket case because you know what? Chemo number 1 is scary because it's the unknown. Chemo number
Right.
6 far scarier because it's the known, right? There's no more questions. You know exactly what's going to go on. And it's
Yes.
very, very stressful. Even when I felt like, okay, I could say the words that I'm so grateful for these drugs that are killing my cancer. It just, you know, that natural response is terror, right? So I walk into his office and they have these forms where you got to fill out, and apparently my answers to the form finally set off alarms, and he starts talking to me about my mental health, and he goes,
Oh no.
Fitz, and he goes, I got to tell you, you've done so well. And I said, I have not done so well. He's like, no, Fitz, you've been doing so great. And I said, why are you saying this again? I'm bald. I'm gray. I've got no lashes. I look like Voldemort, and I feel the same. And I say, why do you keep saying that? Every part of me has gone wrong. He said, Fitz, it's not that you haven't suffered. You have suffered greatly. He said, however, despite the suffering, you have gotten on more planes and had more adventure than most healthy people do in 10 years. He said, you've been gone every single weekend and you've been hosting millions of people and you've been getting on these planes like you're made of steel. He said, your health and fitness has been a godsend. If you did not take such good care of yourself coming into this thing and during, you would have been hospitalized for not only one day, which I was, you would have been hospitalized for a month. You would have a feeding tube. So your health and fitness has worked beautifully. It's done exactly what it's supposed to do. And, you know, that moment was also one of those inspirations for the book, right? Because
Right.
how do we, with your healthy cancer comeback, the next 2, these ones are laser focused on the patient, right? You go in, someone says those hideous words, you have cancer. Well, what now? Well, you know, I think Western medicine has got a lot of solutions and we should take those, but there's also a lot of control we have. And
Right.
my attitude is I was going to control every bit of my fight against cancer that I could. And I did. And I'm living proof that, you know, if you take good care of yourself, you can not only prevent some decline, but you can really rebound quite impressively and live larger than you did before cancer. So yeah, it was a terrifying diagnosis, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad I'm done.
For sure. So when you mentioned that you were out on the road even while you were doing treatments, and what was that like to kind of be there in the midst of, there's just kind of this fun controlled chaos that goes on before a marathon. Is it still sitting in the back of your mind of this is what's going on in my life, versus, the event that you're at, or is it I'm just going to kind of compartmentalize everything? Like, how were you able to stay positive? And just like you mentioned, when you're an announcer, you're the DJ, you're the hype man, you're like Flavor Flav of the marathon.
Yeah.
So how were you able to do that, have that mentality, and to be able to push through?
So what I can tell you is that, it's the travel was the hardest part, the hours on planes feeling that way. But I would, on many occasions, go to sleep on the bathroom floor, right? You know how you sleep in the bathroom when you're sick? I'd fall asleep on the bathroom floor. My alarm would go off at 4:30 in the morning, and because races start early. And I would get up and I would get dressed, and all the things that were wrong with me were very, very apparent. And then when I step onto my stage, magically, almost every time, all those things that were wrong with me disappeared, because at that point, my complete focus was on these thousands of extraordinary people that showed up to do great things for their own health, great causes, their communities. And I got to be full force Fitz Koehler again, as long as I was standing on those stages with a microphone in my hand. It was such a blessing. And we say during the time, and still my greatest stubbornness was my greatest asset and my greatest curse. But again, so many people would have just like called it a day, said, I'm checking out, I'm gonna stay in bed for a year and a half. And if I had done a job that I didn't care about, I probably would have checked out too. But this is the beauty of pursuing your passion, of building a career out of something you adore, something you enthusiastically wake up to with the desperation to get to it. That's the career I've built for myself. And I obsessively worship these runners of mine. I'm so grateful for my race directors, the organizers, man, they went through some interesting efforts to keep me upright. I had IV fluids in many of the cities I visited. I'd get off the plane and I was
Oh, wow.
suffering from severe dehydration always because of my sickness. So they would, these men and women that their job was putting on big races. Now they were going, okay, well, now I'm going to find someone to give our noisy lady some IV fluids. But our race community is like a great big family. And, I made it. So whoever you are, whatever you do, don't give up on your passions, your pleasures. If work is one of those things, then stick with it as much as you can. Work from home if you have to. If you love soccer and you normally play, if you can't play, fine, watch it on TV. If you love animals but you're stuck in the hospital, watch them on YouTube. Just keep your passions involved with your life, because they can pull you out of your funk and help you feel alive again.
So with if you could go back in time, into that moment of, you're getting that word, and that, the second that C word comes out of their mouth, you can go back and talk to that Fitz. What would you tell that Fitz?
I would tell her to continue to follow her instincts, because it was god awful in every regard, but man, did I make some really good decisions that worked to my benefit. And thankfully, because of these books now, those decisions are helping so many other people. But it's interesting, a lot of professionals or people in general, they come to crisis and there's a fork in the road, and then they realize, oh gosh, I've been doing the wrong thing, let me pivot. And instead, my fork in the road, my cancer just solidified the entire foundation I had built, that I was in the right career, that I was surrounded by the right people. And those good decisions I made now, I made in advance, really got me through. So I hope that everybody, assess your life, right? Assess your people, assess your profession, assess your health. My most important advice right here, besides the self-exams, annual exams, is prepare your body to do battle today, because you do not know when illness or injury strikes. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. A strong, fit, healthy body is far more likely to bounce back and recover quickly than an unfit one. In fact, that strong, fit body is far less likely to decline than an unfit one. So your actions today and every day, they matter. Prioritize them. Prioritize yourself.
I love that a lot. Well, Miss Fitz, you have been an absolute amazing guest with us. Thank you so much. Now, where can we find more of you? So what social media? How can people learn more about you, see your content and everything that you're doing out there?
Thanks, Chef. So fitzness.com is my home for everything. F as in Frank, I-T, Z as in zebra, N as in Nancy, E-S-S. It's fitness with my Z in the middle, fitzness.com. That's where all three of my books are being sold right now. The Cancer Comeback series, my Noisy Cancer Comeback, Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. I have the Fixing Your Life with Fitness online course. So anyone who's saying, yeah, I really need to get it together, I have it all out there. It's a 5+ hour course. It's affordable and it's effective. Man, I have people having such great success with this course. So I'm excited about it. And then as well, on my website, there's thousands of free recipes and articles, and dozens or hundreds of free workout videos. My Fitzness show is there. So if you have enjoyed me, blah, 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 barking in your ear about living better and living longer, Fitzness is that. I'm also at Fitzness on social media. And here's the deal. If you find me at Instagram or YouTube or Facebook at Fitzness and you follow, fantastic. But really reach out say hi. I'd much rather I'd much rather you tell me you heard me on the Brodacious podcast, because it's way better to have friends than just followers. And I sincerely mean that. So if you listen to Jonathan's show and you love it and you've enjoyed my episode, then say hi to me, because I prefer new friends.
That's fantastic. Well, please, listeners, make sure you hit the like, you hit the subscribe for Miss Fitz here. Make sure you go and connect. Most of all, I believe that's the human experience is not just likes and subscribes. It's obviously about connections and finding people to be in your corner. And I'm super excited to have Miss Fitz and learn more about her journey and just having that knowledge. And I feel like your courage just rubbed off on me. And this is why I love this podcast. I get to meet just great people. Anytime I'm like, the original concept for this podcast, in all open honesty, is, I was going through this mega change this time last year. I was insanely overweight. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was doing everything. It felt like I was wrong. Nothing was going right for me. And what I've enjoyed about this podcast is I've had guests like you, Miss Fitz, to come on and brought the light into this world. And I'm just really thankful that you were here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Chef. And I hope we get to do this again soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.